everybody. Welcome back to Relationship Reset Podcast, where real relationship conversations meet real life. I'm Stephanie, along with my dad, Russell, and we are the dynamic dad and daughter duo. Hey, Daddy, what's up?
Hey, Steffi, everything is good, and I'm looking forward to this subject matter tonight because it's going to be real good for a whole lot of people, so I'm ready to go.
All right, today we're diving into one of the most talked about topics in relationships, how to shift your mindset from dating to marriage.
Yeah, and that's going to be a task for a lot of people because very few people understand how to go about making that shift or what to do when you are involved in a dating process. And that's what dating is. It is a process.
So here's all the things we'll be discussing today. Is dating just for fun? Or is it a stepping stone to something deeper? What happens when the spark fades? Does commitment automatically kick in? That's a good question. So whether you are single, dating, or in a long-term relationship, this episode is for you. So let's talk about what we're looking for and what it takes to actually find it.
Absolutely. Well, let me start out by asking you a question because, what I'm going to ask, most people want to know. What are some of the biggest mindset differences between someone who is dating casually versus someone preparing for a long-term commitment like marriage?
Okay, so I think that someone who is dating, it depends on what the intention of why they are dating. So some people could be dating simply to, have a hookup. Some people could be dating to get married. Some people could simply be dating long term, but don't want anything as deep as a commitment as a marriage. So it depends on what intention that they're going into the dating, the arena for, so if you are wanting to go into a long-term committed relationship or marriage, then I think you should date for that purpose.
Yeah.
But how do you know? You conversate. You have communication about why we are dating. So what is the intent of why we're dating? Define the relationship. This is what we're dating for. This is what I want out of it. And then you ask the person that you're dating, hey, what is your intention about dating me? Do you want something long term? Are you looking for marriage? Do you want just to have fun? What are you dating for? And I think once you clarify that, your values and all of your boundaries in dating, then you'll get a better idea if someone is on the same page as you and if you guys can move forward or versus someone not being on the same page and you should find somebody else.
Yeah. I like the values and the boundaries point that you made, because that's really what will define whether or not everybody's on the same page, because unless there's some type of communication, there's no way to know. So if you take into it your values and your boundaries, at least you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah. Intention is everything, because I do believe that guys and women, I'm going to talk about guys in a second, but they know what they want from the person the moment that they, are in the relationship. The moment they see someone, the moment they recognize someone, I have a strong belief that they know what they want from it. Like, I think a woman can look at a guy and say something like, "Ooh, that's husband material," or "I would love to date him," or "I would love to get to know him better," or "I would love to be his friend." And then I think that men could look at a woman and say, "You know what? That's wifey," versus "That's my next sleepover," versus, so I think that people have a general idea of what they want with someone while they're dating. I just think that people should be honest and open and be able to express it, because you never know. Someone may want exactly what you want, even if it's just to have fun.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is this: you'll get to judge your ability to judge what it is that you're looking for in another person, because if you happen to make a decision to start dating and then you start asking these questions and then find out that the person you're dating is not on the same page, then you understand that, okay, I may need to sharpen my discernment.
Yep. And you're going to be disappointed or heartbroken at the end of the day because you didn't take the time to communicate about what it is that each other wants, and hopefully be honest. That's the main key. Hopefully people can be honest. Okay, I have a question for you.
Okay.
How can someone recognize if they're still operating in the same dating mindset, even when they say they want a serious relationship?
Well, one of the things is, how long do you date? To tell you the truth, it really doesn't take a long time to sort of recognize your decisions as far as who you are dating. If you got somebody that wants to continue dating for long term, I would recommend 6 months. Now, there are people that may want to date a year. There are people that may want to date maybe a little bit longer. But when you start dating 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years, then you already know what mindset that is. That's somebody that's still like in the valley of decision, or simply not prepared for a long-term relationship. In all honesty, it really does not take long. But you've got to look at issues like my finances. You've got to look at my health. You've got to look at your level of maturity. Are you ready at this point to deal with a long-term relationship? Now, if you're going to go beyond a year or even 2, you need to explain to the person that you're interested in why it is you're taking the length of time that you're taking. Why is it that you haven't made up your mind? Let them know that you're still in preparation. Let them know what your plans are. Let them know what your intentions are. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to reach? Some type of financial goal? Those things need to be out and up front, because just spending time dating, and the other person may be interested in, well, when is this going to turn into something more more solid or deep or whatever? That person needs to know what's going on as far as your plans are concerned.
But wouldn't it be a better idea if you don't start dating until you have those things prepared?
It would be, but generally, that's just not, I think when a person is interested, infatuated, someone that is just wants to connect on a relationship level, it would be good in a more perfect world to think like that. But to tell you the truth is, generally, I think a spark is just that. It happens at a certain time, and at a certain stage, at a certain interest, as far as people are concerned. And once that spark hits, even though you don't have those things in mind, or those preparations in place, I should say.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you just still kind of go with the flow. But in the process, those things need to be set in place, set in order, so that as time goes on, you're more or less closer to being ready than you were when you first got started. Yeah,
most definitely. And I know a lot of relationships start not ready, especially single relationships who are going into that long-term commitment for the first time. I see, and I was also one of them, one of those single people who I didn't think I had a fantasy mindset about a long-term relationship or marriage until I got married, and then realized, oh yeah, this was definitely based on fantasy. So a lot of things you honestly don't get to know until you kind of step into something like a long-term relationship or marriage to realize, oh, there's a lot that I need to learn here.
Yeah. And, the other part of that is this. You don't really, you are not the person that you think you are when you start dating. Neither is the person who you're interested in know who they are. You find out, people say you date for data. Well, that goes both ways. You're finding out more about yourself, and you're finding out more about the other person. And to take it even further, Even when you decide to marry, you never marry who you imagine, who you visualize, who you fantasize. That person has to be developed into.
Yep.
Getting to know another human being can be a very complex process, but it's very much worth it because there's so much wealth that can come out of a relationship.
Yeah.
However, the mindset has to be, you've got to be in a position where you get to know yourself better.
Yep.
That means self-care. And then, of course, you develop a relationship where everybody is growing as a result of the relationship. Something is wrong when people stop growing in a relationship. So that may be something else we can talk about at a later date, but it's going to be important to know that you never marry the person who they're supposed to be. They have to develop into that person.
I wish more people knew. I wish I knew that, to be honest with you, because I think that, you go in with this expectation that you know who you want to marry. And then when you don't see it, it's like, oh, wait, did I make a mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People think that, because they're not adding up to be the person who I want them to be, that I make a mistake. To tell you the truth, there's really no mistake, because even if it's a marriage, quote, prophesied, unquote, you're still human. You still have to go through a process. There are no shortcuts. You still have to know the dynamics and the requirements and all of the things that go along with developing a healthy relationship, which you start out by getting to know yourself better than trying to know the person that you are married to. Of course, we've got to get to know our spouses and so on and so forth. But every time, my rule of thumb is, when I run into a situation where I'm not understanding my spouse, I immediately turn the light on me and see how I can improve to become a more understanding person in the relationship. So these are dynamics that most folk really don't know. And what we do is we tend to focus more on how, we need to, the other person needs to improve. But I can't change my spouse. I can change me. And if I change me, I'm more able to assist my spouse in changing.
Yeah. Now, see, more marriages will be so much more successful if we knew that you don't focus on changing and shifting. Because at the end of the day, I think what we're wanting from our spouse or from our significant other is make my life a little easier. So if you adjust your attitude, if you adjust, this characteristic about you, then you will make my life easier. And that's what we're actually asking for when we're asking for someone else to shift and change. We're asking them to make our lives easier. But at the end of the day, it's our responsibility. If we want to feel more peace, then we have to figure out, okay, how do I position myself mentally, physically, all of those things in order to give myself the peace that I'm looking for. If we want to better communication, okay, what role am I playing in the communication that's creating toxic, conversations? So if we turned the focus on us and how we can grow and develop, opposed to looking at, the other people and, what they can change, marriages will be so much more successful.
Yeah. Well, that's the dynamic. That's the trick, if you will. That ought to be the focus. But the human nature tends to blame others rather than taking responsibility for bettering themselves, attempting to fix themselves, expand themselves as far as their intelligence is concerned. Somehow or other, it's easier to put the responsibility on somebody else straightening up rather than us improving ourselves. And so I think the trick is self-improvement, self-care, analyzing yourself.
Right.
Now, it does not mean that there's not something that your partner or your spouse needs to do, but what it means is you are equipping yourself to assist them in what it is they need to do, rather than just making it all about somebody else. I have to take responsibility, and the word responsibility, as I always say, is the ability to respond first to what I need to do, and then help or assist my spouse in what she needs to do. So
That's really good.
yeah, that's really how relationships ought to work. That's a relationship dynamic.
Yep.
And when we do it that way, we have a better chance of a long-term, satisfying, successful relationship.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What are practical ways to begin shifting from focusing on chemistry and excitement to compatibility and values?
Okay. So I think every relationship starting out is extremely exciting, and there's scientific proof behind how our brains, amygdala, all of those things, it kind of shuts down. Our decision making becomes harder when our brain is on love. It is literally like a drug being released, and it's difficult to, and your bodies are preparing yourselves to mate, this is
Right.
all of those great scientific facts about what happens when we are excited in a relationship. So I would say give it time, because try not to satisfy any of your needs or desires in those first few months. Because the moment you get into satisfying, you are not certain if you are being drawn to those needs and desires, or if you're being drawn to the actual person.
Right.
So if you give it time, 3 months, 6 months, without satisfying or wanting to satisfy yourself, now you're giving yourself the opportunity and the ability to actually see, are we truly compatible? And you're giving yourself the opportunity to be able to discuss and talk about these values without the distractions of getting too caught up, in the physical acts too early. So I believe time solves that issue.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with that. That's good, because a lot of times it's hard to differentiate between, are you trying to satisfy yourself? Is there, and this is why you cannot go into a relationship, let's just say, needy.
Yeah. Yep.
You want to be able to be a satisfied whole person. And see, that's why those things have got to be worked on before you even go into the dating thing, because you want to attract another person that is at least moving in the direction of a satisfied whole person. Now, I want to clarify something, because to a lot of people, that's not even realistic. I mean, how do you know somebody is satisfied and whole? Well, you don't know, but you get to know yourself.
Totally.
You get to know you. You get to know where you are in this thing. You get to know what it is, not only what you're looking for, but you get to know who to look for as a result of who you have become. And if you're not a person that is at least satisfied to a degree with yourself, like yourself, value yourself, if you're that kind of person, then most likely you will be intimidating to someone that's less than who you are.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's when, the changes, I'm trying to change this person, you need to shift. And, all of those things can kick into play when you are, intimidated.
Yeah.
That's really good information. Okay. What habits or conversations should couples start practicing early on to build a foundation for long-term success?
Habits. Of course, communication.
Okay.
That can be a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that you keep your values.
Mm-hmm.
That's a habit. Another habit, I think, is being able to talk about strength and weaknesses.
Yeah.
That's a part of the habit of having conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Family background, because
That's
I'm really sticking with more or less the what you're calling a habit. I'm calling it just continual, habitual conversation about
Mm-hmm.
the realities of who you are, where you come from. People often say, well, I'm not marrying your family, I'm marrying you, but you're bringing
Yes.
a lot of family traits
Mm-hmm.
with you. So I don't know if it's so much, to tell you the truth, habit,
Mm-hmm.
or is it just an ongoing kind of process?
Yep.
So if a process fits the habit, then
Mm-hmm.
then that's good. But I think there's just certain things that begin to happen and flow when you are practicing the right principles for a relationship.
Yeah. One big one that comes up a lot in couples therapy for me is safety. That's a
Yeah.
huge one. And I think this is something that needs to be practiced across most couples. Is a lot of people feel like they can't say what they need to say without some type of repercussion. So if I'm honest, he or she may not like me. If I say this, then I may have to, consider getting into a argument. If I do this, then this is going to happen. So a lot of times we try to kind of cover up or mask up what's actually there just based on anticipating a response from somebody else. So what needs to be practiced, I believe, is incorporating, giving yourself the opportunity to have a safe space. And the only way you can do that is through vulnerability. Practice being vulnerable with your partner, because when you can be vulnerable with someone, first of all, you're gaining trust. Intimacy is gained through trust and vulnerability. So if you're in a relationship where you can't say what it is that you feel, obviously respectfully, say what it is that you feel, or talk about, something that's concerning you or bothering you without any fear of repercussion, what are you actually getting into?
Yeah. I think that the thing that makes someone secure in a relationship is the fact that that person actually cares about you.
Mm-hmm.
So being loved and being cared for, that brings about security.
Yep.
On the other hand, if somebody is just out for their own benefit and they don't care about you, and they are not comfortable with you being upfront with them, then that's a good sign that relationship needs to be reexamined anyway.
Yeah.
Because caring for a person means caring about the whole person, not just a part of the person that you like.
Right, but most people don't feel comfortable with being their whole person. Most people don't feel comfortable with completely being authentic, being raw, being vulnerable. Most people don't feel comfortable to do that. So they're not giving their partners an opportunity to even see or accept what's really there.
Yeah. And the reason people don't feel comfortable is it may be that they have too many secrets. It may be
whatever it is, it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, because you don't want to get in a relationship, and this is why I really keep going back to it, but it's true. You've got to really sharpen yourself, care for yourself. You've got to be able to really know what it means to build you up. I want to be the best I can be so that I can attract the best.
Yep.
And there's some dynamic there that it's intangible. It's not something that you can readily see materialize,
Yep.
but you happen to know there's like let's call it a sixth sense, where you just understand that I am attracting a person that is at least moving in the same direction that I'm moving in, and not somebody that is hiding, not somebody that is careless, not somebody that is insecure. If I'm a secure person, I have a better chance at attracting a secure person. One of the things that will tell you if you're a secure person is that if you have a mindset whereby you can begin to trust with at least to a degree. You don't get complete trust because trust has to be over a period of time earned.
Right.
But if you are a suspicious person, most likely, if you haven't learned the value of at least giving some degree of trust, most likely you're not really ready for that really honest relationship.
Yeah.
I know of situations where people just because of hurt or whatever, they just don't trust, and they're always suspicious of being betrayed. Well, you need to get by yourself and find out what's in me. Just will not trust in a relationship. Why do I fear being betrayed? Have I been betrayed? Have I betrayed others? Do I cheat? What am I like when I'm by myself? That'll tell me pretty much, regardless of the performance I put on for other people. That'll tell me who I am.
Which, in a way of doing that is explore your attachment style. So there's secure attachment, there's anxious attachment, there's fearful avoidant attachment, and then there's dismissive avoidant attachment. So if you can Google it, the information is everywhere, all over social media, but you can kind of look deeper into finding out what your attachment style is. If you are fear of abandonment, then that's going to show up in your relationship through suspiciousness and, all the other stuff that comes up with it. So that's a way to know if you are looking for that.
Yeah. Well, that's why, I've got to be doing maintenance to me. And I really, I enjoy that because I enjoy improving myself. I don't ever want to be in a place where I am less than who I think I am. I want to always be improving. I want to have the right esteem of myself. I don't want to esteem myself more highly. I want to be balanced in how I see me, because the better I see me, I have a better chance of discerning how I see other people, reading them, understanding what is my attraction towards this person. When I began to date Cindy, wasn't interested. I didn't care anything about, as far as being involved in a ministry with her. That wasn't my intention. My intention was I wanted a good marriage. And so what I needed to do was prepare myself for a good marriage, not some great ministry. Now, my thing is a great ministry could come out of a good marriage, but if I have to choose between the two, I would prefer the marriage, because you're not always on a platform.
And marriage comes before the ministry, because if ministry comes before the marriage, then now the marriage is doomed.
You've got
marriage has to come before the ministry.
You've got dysfunction left and right. So the whole idea of the relationship is it ought to be something that can stand by itself. Without a ministry, without the issue of business or
children.
People talk about power couples. What makes you a power couple? Well, what ought to make you a power couple is a powerful marriage relationship, and everything else should be just gravy, as they say. So yeah, the whole issue is let's have a great relationship. Let's build a strong relationship.
Yeah.
And then when we start building the other things, those things should just begin to come together easily because the foundation of marriage or my relationship aspect is strong.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So these are some practices that, you all could take on and incorporate in your own relationship. Not getting caught up in the feelings of relationships, but actually building a foundation, and sometimes that takes time, that takes some sacrifice of not satisfying your needs or other people's needs in order to see if something is actually there that you can actually build upon. I'm telling you, it works wonders.
Yeah. And by the way, people need to know that you are a relationship therapist. And that's one of the things that I think is valuable nowadays. Being able to have someone that can actually give you insight, give you counsel, help you to bring about the kind of relationships that people need. A relationship, as I always say, that's satisfying, that's fulfilling, that is successful. So, it's great to be able nowadays, like it wasn't like this always, but nowadays to be counsel and to have a therapist.
Yeah.
Relationships are becoming more and more complicated nowadays.
People are more open to it these days. People of all races, all genders, people are more open. Cultures are more open to seek therapy. So it's not something that's as taboo as it used to be. Oh, I don't want some random in my business. it's not as taboo. I think people are finding it very helpful.
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, you're right. It's thanks to the millennials.
Totally.
They're the ones that really sort of brought it to some type of place where people now are reaching out more. But tell people how they can get in contact with you and what you're doing as far as the relationship space is concerned.
So yes, I am a therapist. We'll put the information down there if you guys feel like you need any therapy. Also, having a singles dating conversation. Just talking about the temperature out there of what it's like to be dating, what it's like to be single, asking questions, the males versus the females, all of those things, gaining a better understanding of one another and why we function in the way that we function. So that's something that you guys can also check out down below the description. We'll be there. What about you, Daddy?
Yeah, well, of course, coaching in relationships is my passion. It's a calling. It's something that is needed. And I like the word coaching because it speaks to a team, not just an individual. It works. It requires teamwork, and coaching brings out strengths, helps you to manage your weaknesses, gives you intelligence in areas of the relationship. Dealing with emotional intelligence. There are people that want to understand spiritual intelligence. There are so many aspects to a relationship, and I think it's helpful to get people to a place a lot quicker than they can get there on their own when it comes to building a relationship. So you can go to russelltomlinson.com and everything that you would need to know is there. And hey, we've got a lot more things to deal with and cover, but we can't do it all in one session. So we will see you guys the next time. Stephanie, it's been a great conversation. And anything else you need to add?
Yes. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. If you've enjoyed what you heard, please do not forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. If you guys want to know when these shows air, turn on your notifications. Share this with someone. And we are going to get ready to reset, renew, and revive. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a good one.
See you guys next time.
Bye.